Today we're heading to the western side of. We're gonna do distribution for the soldiers. These guys have been out here for months, basically camping. It's time for them to get some things that they need. And because of our relationship with the Army, we hear directly what they want and what they need. So XL's been a hot item. A lot of them are trading cigarettes for this because it's an energy drink and they have to stay up all night protecting their territories and being on guard for Hezbollah, especially here in the north. So we have a lot of these to give away. They're gonna be very popular. Underwear, power banks, fleece, socks, batteries, and protein bars and towels. So some things that they're going to enjoy and a lot of things that they really need.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Moreno Report. I am Stephanie. This is Retired Lieutenant Colonel Marco Moreno. Susan, the mule that keeps all the work here moving and cranking and keeping all of us in line. We are in the north. We're in Kiryat Shmona right now in the north of Israel. And we are heading today to the western area of, we're called locally, to visit some very special unit of soldiers. Marco, where are we going? Who are these guys?
Yeah, good morning, guys. We're gonna meet today Battalion 13 of Golani Brigade, which are very famous in Israel. I don't know if our guys back home familiar, but those guys lost a lot of soldiers on October 7 surrounding Gaza because they were one of the two battalions that were deployed there. And then they went into Gaza. Lieutenant Colonel Tomer lost his life in Gaza. Golani Brigade, it's our heart. Like all the IDF is our heart also. Golani Brigade has a special place in our heart for them. They fought serious fighting in Gaza for the last 3.5 months. Went out and came to the north, preparing themselves to the next war. But we don't know when will happen in the north, so we're gonna go. We brought all the goodies for them, as good as they need. We're gonna go for a not very safe place today. There's like anti-tanks missiles, we've been shooting them from time to time, but we'll take another route to go into the place and meet the Golani 13 Battalion. Honored to do that for them. Let's give them okay, that's for now, and we'll talk about what's going on in terms of war, Gaza, North, etc. when we'll be up.
Alright, so we're at our first stop with the Golani Brigade, just handing out simple stuff. So this is, I've lost track, like 5 months or so into the war since October 7th, and we started doing the distributions immediately, and it's just, it's the monotony of war, so these guys haven't had a solid night's sleep in 5 months. They've lost a ton of guys in their battalion, and of all of the weight and responsibility, burdens, grief, dangers, risks that these guys are carrying. It's a simple thing to, it's fleece shirts, protein bars, energy drinks, just simple stuff that means the world. And so we want to thank you guys for laboring through this with us and sticking around 5 months in. It'd be easy once the headlines kind of die down to forget that this is happening here, but it's still happening here. And these guys, as Marco said, they were at first deployed to, and then they started to shift this battalion to prepare for things with Hezbollah here in Lebanon. So it's a long slog, and we want to walk the long road with them.
Yes.
יאללה, דנני איפה הוא? דנני? עדני, אני רואה דנני. דני. This is a very cultural thing in the army when they come to a place, so they have this thing. That's the place they hang. So they put every unit have their flag and the names who is who. So it's all around here. That's their spot. It's very cultural. That's the place. It's very for them when they come to a new place. They just they just mark it. It's ours now. We're here to stay, and they can live like in a couple of minutes, in a couple of weeks or months. So we don't know how long the war, when it kickstart in the north, will be. So let's give you guys some details. What's going on? Let's start Gaza front. It's a MORENO report now, if you didn't get it. Gaza front. The army is in Shifa hospital. You remember the big thing was in Shifa in the beginning, so the army returned to the Shifa
This is
hospital.
in the north
In
side
the
of the
north-
Gaza Strip.
The north side
So
of the
Hamas is still using Shifa
the
Hospital.
north side of the Gaza Strip, and the army killed a lot of terrorists there and captured a lot of them, and that will be the drill, like we see in the West Bank. Army coming to a city in Gaza, cutting the grass to a certain high, and then coming and cutting the grass again. So it will take time. Sorry, Rafah. Everyone speaks about Rafah. Looks like the Biden administration now is holding us back from Rafah. But it would take probably Ramadan. Because of Ramadan, they don't want us to go in Ramadan. I don't know, politics, but that's the reality. We will go into Rafah. We cannot win the war without going into Rafah.
Just for context, I want people to understand that not going into Rafah would be like not taking Mosul in 2016. And if we didn't take Mosul in 2016, ISIS would still be around. So if you take everything and you stop at Rafah, it's like all of this was for nothing.
Yeah, there is like 4 battalion of Hamas terrorists. They're still
Hanging out in Rafah.
The hostage are the hostage, probably majority of them. Probably maybe Sinwar, the head of Hamas. We don't know. We will go there. We clean up. Probably we go back again. So that's the Gaza front. Now we are in the north. It's still in Gaza. The army is in attack. In the north, the army is in defense. Like it's defending. Probably you guys monitoring it from every day. They are shooting some rockets here. We are shooting on them. It's like
You'll hear some of it while we're here.
The talk in Israel is talking about May, June, July, when the war kickstart. Maybe yes, maybe not. We don't know. I'm in person. I think it will kickstart because there isn't any other alternative. You cannot do 1701, the UN resolution, which is told.
Well, let's explain this. So this UN resolution 1701 means, I mean, this was like years back.
That was after the 2006 Second Lebanon War.
Right. So Hezbollah should be how many kilometers from the border?
10.
10 kilometers from the back behind a river, 10 kilometers north of the
River of Litani.
And they were like, they crossed the Litani River ages ago. They've been hanging out at the fence, and nobody's, for all of the furore online of UN resolutions and, you know, war crimes, whatever, Hezbollah's been violating the UN resolution for years, and nobody said a word about it. So they've been just hanging out at the fence, stockpiling weapons, and Israel's just had to tolerate it because of international pressure. The U.S. kind of puppeteering the geopolitical situation because they supply a lot of the defense mechanism. They supply a lot of the Iron Dome. And so
And because of the Muslims voters in Michigan. Probably.
You know, so, you know, it's just, this has been the waiting game. So the question now is, are we actually going to go to war this summer, or are they going to find some kind of diplomatic solution that kicks the can further up the road and buys us a few years? Might buy us 3 years, might buy us 10 years. But at some point, there's going to be a heavy war in the north.
Guys, just let's put things in context. 70,000 people from the north are evacuated. This, by the way, this place we are, there isn't any civilians here.
Right.
Everybody's gone. Hotels in Tel Aviv, I don't know where. No one will go home without a final solution for the north. No one. 1701 UN resolution, it's baloney. They didn't do nothing about it. They evaluate it every time. Really, think about it. Can you do an agreement with a terrorist organization, the biggest drug cartel in the world called Hezbollah. So, war probably will kickstart here.
See, he's just slipping things in there. He just called Hezbollah the biggest drug cartel in the world. Yup, there is a scene in the Middle East. Y'all don't know. But remember, Hamas was hyped up on, I don't know, like poor man's cocaine in the South on 10/7. ISIS has been, like, there's, you know, as our dear friend says, you always want to follow the money. And there's a lot of money in the drug.
Yeah, that's one of
Middle
the
East.
income resource they have. That and the Iranian, of course. Okay, guys, we are heading to another place here on the border, Lebanon's border, to support another Golani Brigade soldiers.
We want you guys to get to know this brigade. They're incredible. There's some stories that you need to hear.
Golani is the best. Yeah.
תודה רבה לכם. את החיילים הגבות שלהם, כל הלוחמים הגבות שלהם. תקף, בוא נשים את זה בחוץ, שימחו את זה לספספייה שבאים לבשו שם וזה. אבל כן, תן לו זה. תודה רבה לכם. יאללה, לתת לכם בסיגרות שלהם מעצמם. Guys, look at this young officer from Golani Brigade, Battalion 13. 20 years old, commander of... Yeah, 30 soldier warrior. Those men, young men, is gonna fight Hezbollah in the north really soon. He is the reason that all the civilians in this region and other will go back home safely. We love you, brother, and we hope to, and we pray for you guys to come back to your parents, friends, and family and safe. ביי, תודה רבה.
תודה רבה.
שימו את זה שם הבא. ככה, אחים מגבות.
I want to tell you guys a story because today's day 164. So way before New Year's, before Christmas, way before Thanksgiving, like rewind 164 days when all this started on October 7th. And this battalion, the 13th Battalion of the Golani Brigade, led by the Lieutenant Colonel that Marco just referenced, Lieutenant Colonel Tomer Grunberg. Am I saying his name right?
Yeah.
Who gave his life in Gaza in early December 12th, give or take. On October 7th, as Hamas had taken control of several kibbutzim in the Gaza envelope, one of them was Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And I remember hearing the story. I was in the States on October 7th. I remember hearing the story of these two 10-month-old twins who their parents were killed the morning of the 7th. And I later listened to an interview with their aunt and uncle, one of their aunts and uncles, with the Free Press and Barry Weiss. And they were telling Barry that these babies, you know, the sirens went off at 6:30 in the morning. They went into the shelter with the kids, and then their parents were killed, but Hamas they kept the twins alive. And these kids had gone without their morning bottle. They were just in their diapers. They didn't have clothes on, and they were completely abandoned for 14 hours. And I remember thinking, like, come on, everybody's got a breaking point, right? Like, you've got two starving newborns who are cold. They've got messy diapers. They're unhappy. They're screaming, right? Like, babies scream when they're unhappy. Like, everybody has a breaking point. So why wouldn't you do something 14 hours deep, at least to get the kids to stop crying? And their uncle said, well, Hamas was using them as bait to try to lure in the neighbors, try to lure in any relatives who had survived, try to lure in the IDF, using 10-month-old twins, starving, cold, soiled, as bait to lure in civilians or soldiers to just rack up the casualty count on October 7th. And the 13th Battalion of the Golani Brigade, led by Lieutenant Colonel Tomer Grunberg, are the ones who actually rescued those twins. And I mean, really, they're legends. So it's such a simple thing, you know, to give energy drinks and socks and cigarettes and stuff. But like, Susan and I are not Israelis. We don't live here. We left our families, we left our country to just be here and be friends to Israelis in this season. And there's as simple, and it almost feels like, you know, you do something like this, we don't really have a harness on the language. You just cart the stuff out of the trailer and hand it off. And you're like, yeah, all right, well, you know, Merry Christmas, but not Christmas, you know, like, bye. it's such a brief thing. It's such a simple thing, but this is day 164, and the toll that these guys are carrying. It's just an honor for us to even do something simple. And Marco facilitates the whole thing. We're just grateful. We're just grateful. We're grateful to be here. We're grateful for Marco's leadership here on the ground, and we're grateful for you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for allowing us to do it.
These are the folks. Like, I tell you that story about the twins because I want you to understand the toll of what they've gone through. They've lost dozens of their own men and friends. They've lost their commander. And they're still here. They're still slogging. And so these are the men that you guys are serving. When you give to the Israel Fund, this is the kind of thing that we're able to do, and the soldiers were able to serve. So thank you guys.